Be careful who you cast out. Sometimes the one you tried to bury was the seed. You weren't overlooked by accident, you were hidden on purpose. They laughed while you struggled, smirked while you sacrificed, toasted your downfall before the chapter was even over. But plot twist, this isn't your funeral, this is your forecast. And trust me, it's raining blessings. Here's a chilling fact. Over 70% of ultra-successful people were doubted, dismissed, or outright ridiculed right before their breakthrough. Coincidence? Or divine comedy? Because what's happening now isn't random, it's a reversal. And you're not just in it, you are the storm they never saw coming. Let's be honest, they thought they were winning. They weaponized gossip like it was gospel. And while they were busy screenshotting your failures for the group chat, the universe was screenshotting your destiny for global display. Now everything they built on manipulation is crumbling, and everything you endured in silence is about to speak for itself. So buckle up, because this isn't just a message, this is a warning, a prophecy, a clapback signed by the divine. They're about to lose everything. And your blessings, they're already en route. Oh, and they won't be able to not see it, even if they block you. Number one, you were never meant to fit their system. You were built to outgrow it. You were never supposed to fit in. That uneasiness you felt your whole life, the feeling that you couldn't play along, couldn't follow the crowd, couldn't pretend, it wasn't a flaw, it was evidence. Proof that you were designed for something outside of their system. While others found comfort in staying the same, in doing what's expected, you kept getting pushed into unfamiliar territory. And that wasn't failure. That was growth disguised as frustration. People tried to box you in, they wanted you to shrink so they could feel taller. They labeled your independence as rebellion, your insight as arrogance, your silence as weakness. But none of that was true. What they couldn't understand, they tried to control. What they couldn't replicate, they tried to ridicule. They mistook your isolation as a lack of direction, but really it was preparation. You were outgrowing their limits. Quietly, strategically. They made you feel like the problem because you wouldn't play small. But you weren't built for small. You were never meant to find comfort in systems that reward conformity over purpose. The path you're on isn't easy because it's not recycled. It's original, customized, and they never saw it coming. While they worked hard to maintain the illusion of power, you were learning how to walk in real authority. The kind that doesn't scream for attention, the kind that doesn't need a title to make an impact. They measured success in applause, you measured it in alignment, and now the system they tried so hard to protect is crumbling. And you're still standing, not because you played by their rules, but because you didn't. You didn't fail to fit in. You succeeded in growing beyond it. That discomfort was your confirmation. You were never here to blend in. You were here to break patterns, to shift atmospheres, to lead where others were too afraid to go. And now they're finally starting to see you weren't made for their system. You were made to replace it. Number two, what they called arrogance was actually prophetic confidence. They called it arrogance, but the truth is, you just knew who you were before they did. That quiet confidence you carried. It threatened people who were used to being the loudest in the room. They needed you to second-guess yourself so they could feel secure in their own uncertainty. The moment you walked in with clarity and conviction, it unsettled them. Not because you did anything wrong, but because deep down, they knew you were right, and that scared them. People are comfortable around confusion. It makes them feel less alone in their own doubt. But when someone walks in and doesn't flinch, doesn't seek approval, doesn't wait to be validated, suddenly that confidence gets mislabeled. They didn't see your journey. They didn't witness the nights you questioned everything. They didn't sit with you in the dark while you pieced yourself back together. All they saw was someone who refused to shrink. They couldn't handle the fact that you didn't need their permission to be great, so instead, they tried to frame your self-belief as ego. But there's a difference. Ego demands attention. Confidence moves with purpose, whether anyone's watching or not. And you were just doing what you were born to do. Speak truth, move forward, and not apologize for being chosen. They didn't reject you because you were wrong. They rejected you because you disrupted the comfort of their limitations. Your clarity exposed their confusion. Your calm exposed their chaos. They couldn't see your confidence as a gift because it reminded them of everything they hadn't yet stepped into. You never needed to explain yourself. That wasn't arrogance. That was foresight. That was alignment. That was the quiet knowing that even if no one clapped, you were still walking the right path. And now, as everything they built starts to shake, they'll remember the one they dismissed, the one who didn't flinch, the one who knew before it was obvious. Number 3, their weapons were never formed to destroy you. They were mirrors to reveal them. They thought what they did to you would break you. They really believed the rumors, the sabotage, the shade. They thought it would be enough to stop you. But what they didn't realize is that their attacks weren't weapons. They were mirrors. Every time they tried to tear you down, all they did was reveal who they really were. They showed their jealousy. They exposed their insecurity. They thought they were hurting you, but all they did was uncover themselves. You weren't destroyed because you were never depending on their approval to begin with. You weren't building your future on fragile ground. So when the hits came, verbal jabs, fake support, silent envy, you didn't fold, you learned, you adapted, and most of all, you saw the truth. They feared your strength more than they disliked your presence. That fear is what fueled the gossip. That fear is what kept them watching your every move while pretending not to care. The wild part is they never really knew you. They judged you through their own broken lenses. They reacted to the version of you they made up in their minds. They couldn't understand how you kept going, how you stayed grounded, how you didn't give them the reaction they were hoping for, that silence you gave them. That wasn't weakness, that was wisdom. That was you refusing to get dragged into a war you'd already won by simply refusing to fight. Every plan they made to block you became part of the blueprint for your next level. What was meant to delay you only forced you to take a route they couldn't follow. And now those same people who tried to weaponize your struggle have to sit back and watch you rise without their help, without their validation, and without any bitterness. They thought they were building a trap, but they were really building a platform for your growth, your clarity, and your next move. They just didn't know it. Number 4, their collapse isn't karma, it's exposure. They thought they were untouchable, that their schemes, lies, and manipulation would never catch up to them. For a while, it looked like they were right. They were thriving off shortcuts, clout, and control. But what they didn't count on was time. Time has a way of pulling back the curtain. And when the curtain drops, exposure hits harder than any revenge ever could. Their downfall isn't karma doing you a favor. This isn't some spiritual payback served on your behalf. This is the natural result of living a lie. Systems, whether personal, social, or spiritual, that are built on deceit eventually collapse because they're hollow. You don't have to fight fake forever. Eventually, the truth gets tired of being quiet. You didn't curse them. You didn't pray for their failure. You didn't even retaliate. What you did was survive. You stayed aligned. You did your inner work while they curated an image. And now that reality is knocking on their door. Everything they built on control and manipulation is falling because it was never real to begin with. What's wild is they'll call it bad luck. They'll act like victims of random misfortune, but you and the universe both know better. The truth has a habit of revealing itself at the exact moment people think they've gotten away with everything. The collapse looks sudden to outsiders, but it's been cracking for a long time. Exposure is never loud at first. It starts small, an inconsistency here, a contradiction there. But eventually the lies can't hold each other up, and when it happens, the fall is fast. Not because you wished for it, but because truth has gravity. And once it starts falling into place, everything false has to come down. So no, this isn't karma cashing a check. This is exposure doing what exposure does, clearing the air, leveling the ground, and making sure only what's real can remain standing. Number 5, isolation wasn't punishment, it was refinement. It felt like rejection. Like you were being pushed out, forgotten, ignored. While they were surrounded by people, noise, opportunities, and attention, you were left with silence. But what looked like isolation was actually refinement. That quiet season wasn't a punishment, it was preparation. The very place that felt like a wilderness was where you were being sharpened for what they'd never be ready for. They thought your silence meant you had nothing to say. They assumed your absence meant you were out of the game, but really you were being hidden on purpose. Hidden so you could grow without interference. Hidden so you wouldn't absorb their noise. Hidden so your gift could develop in peace without being reduced to a trend or drained by people who didn't value it. While they were performing for applause, you were being aligned with purpose. While they were building platforms with shaky foundations, you were being built from the inside out. There was nothing glamorous about your process. It was slow, quiet, frustrating, but it was necessary, because what you're called to carry can't be mass-produced. It has to be forged. And in that isolation, you learned discipline. You learned how to hear your own voice. You learned how to move without needing confirmation. That's why, now that things are shifting, you don't need a crowd to validate your steps. You've already walked through the fire, alone, and came out sharper, stronger, more focused than ever. They had a following, but you had a foundation. They had hype, but you were getting healed. And that's the part they won't understand. Why you're rising now with such clarity, such precision, such undeniable power. It's because isolation didn't break you, it built you. And while they were busy being seen, you were becoming unstoppable. So no, your silence wasn't abandonment, it was strategy. And the ones who overlooked you are about to realize you weren't behind, you were being refined. Number 6, they mocked your process because they couldn't comprehend the price. They mocked your process because it didn't make sense to them. To people who worship shortcuts and overnight success, anything that takes time looks like failure. They saw you building slow, moving in silence, pausing when you needed to, and they laughed. Not because you were wrong, but because they didn't understand what it takes to grow something real. People who've never built anything from scratch will always underestimate the ones who have. They didn't see the late nights, the breakdowns, the sacrifices. All they saw was a version of you they thought wasn't moving fast enough. But you weren't building for applause, you were building for endurance. They couldn't comprehend the price because they've never paid it. They wanted the results without the wrestle. They wanted the outcome without the cost. So they joked, they doubted, they judged. They disrespected your process because it didn't perform. You weren't showing receipts. You weren't broadcasting your pain or explaining every delay. You just kept going, quietly, consistently. And because they couldn't measure that, they assumed you had nothing to show. But growth isn't always visible. Sometimes it looks like stillness. Sometimes it looks like struggle. Sometimes it looks like loss. What they didn't realize was that your drought wasn't emptiness, it was storage. You were collecting wisdom, you were learning strategy, you were becoming drought-proof. While they were chasing trends, you were building roots. And now that the shift is here, they're about to see why you had to go through what you did. They laughed at the cocoon because they couldn't imagine wings. They thought that because it looked small, it meant it was weak. But you weren't buried, you were planted. And now you're rising, and everything they mocked is starting to make sense. The price you paid in private is about to produce in public, and the same mouths that doubted you will have no choice but to go silent. Not because you said anything, but because your results will. Number 7, the same doors they slammed in your face are now collapsing behind them. They really believed they had the final say. When they closed those doors in your face, whether it was rejection, betrayal, sabotage, or fake support, they thought they were protecting their position. They thought that keeping you out meant they had secured the upper hand. But what they didn't realize is that destiny doesn't knock twice, and it doesn't beg to be let in. It reroutes, it recalibrates, and when it shows up again, it doesn't need permission, it takes up space. Those doors they slammed weren't divine barriers. They were fear-based boundaries created by people who felt threatened by your potential. They saw something in you, maybe before you fully saw it yourself, and instead of nurturing it, they tried to neutralize it. They believed that if they blocked access, they could block purpose, but all they did was delay themselves, because you were never meant to be stuck behind what they controlled. Now the same doors they once stood behind like gatekeepers are falling apart. The systems they used to shut you out, the fake alliances, the image building, the manipulation are turning on them. Not because you wished it, but because anything built on exclusion eventually collapses under its own weight. When something isn't rooted in truth or love, it can't last. They built walls to keep you small, not realizing you were growing too big to be boxed in. You didn't force your way in. You didn't play politics. You didn't kiss rings or compromise who you were. You kept walking. You trusted the detour, and now the tables are turning, not in some petty revenge story, but because alignment always reveals itself in time. Those same people now need the access they once denied you. And the irony? The space they were so desperate to protect is crumbling, because doors don't open based on ego. They open for purpose. And if they're not built to support what's true, they won't stand. Not for you, not for them. They thought locking you out was power. Turns out it was a countdown. Number 8. Your rejection was a redirection so precise it had to be divine. It stung. That rejection hit in a way that felt personal, unfair, maybe even humiliating. You questioned yourself, your worth, your path. You asked what you did wrong, why you weren't chosen, why doors slammed when you were finally ready to walk through them. But what you didn't see then, what you might just be starting to realize now, is that their no wasn't failure. It was precision, divine precision. You were being rerouted away from something that looked like an opportunity but would have been a trap. It wasn't the blessing they made it out to be. It was noise, distraction, maybe even destruction disguised as a next step. That job, that relationship, that platform, that collaboration, they weren't bad because they didn't happen. They didn't happen because they weren't built for you. And if you had been allowed in too early, you would have paid a heavy price for a door you weren't supposed to enter. You weren't rejected. You were protected. From a room that would have demanded your energy but not fed your growth. From people who would have praised you publicly and drained you privately. From a version of success that looked good on the outside but would have wrecked you on the inside. That delay, that detour, it wasn't random, it was surgical. It was the kind of reroute only a higher hand could orchestrate. You were being kept from premature access for your own safety, your own preparation, your own future. The thing you thought you missed out on was never a missed opportunity, it was a missed collision. And now you're starting to see why the door didn't open. Because what's opening now, what's aligning now feels different. It fits, it flows, it feeds you. You're not forcing it, you're not begging for it, you're walking into it fully aware of who you are. That rejection didn't ruin anything, it refined everything. And the more you step into alignment, the more you'll thank God for every single no that redirected you home. Number 9, they prayed for your fall, but you were rooted too deep. They whispered behind closed doors, hoping you'd stumble. They spread rumors with the kind of energy reserved for people who feel threatened. They strategized in corners, plotting your downfall like it was a game they were guaranteed to win. But here's the thing, they didn't realize you were rooted too deep to be uprooted by noise or negativity. Their attacks were like storms, fierce, unpredictable, and meant to shake you loose, but the stronger the storm, the deeper your roots grew. You weren't built on surface-level things like popularity or temporary approval. Your foundation is purpose, solid, unshakable, and eternal. No amount of gossip or schemes can erode that. You learned early on that people who throw shade often do so because they're afraid of your light. They want you to dim down, blend in, stop threatening their comfort zones. But you never had that option. You were meant to be a beacon, not a shadow. And so, while they wasted energy trying to bring you down, you focused on standing taller. Now, while they're busy sinking in their own drama and deception, you're rising. It's almost poetic. Their own fear and envy is pulling them under while your purpose lifts you higher. Their plans to destroy you became the blueprint for your resilience. Every lie they told, every snide comment, every closed door, they only made you dig your roots deeper. They prayed for your fall, but you weren't fragile, you were anchored. And as their world crumbles under the weight of their own making, you're proof that true strength isn't about how loud you are or how many people applaud. It's about how firmly you stand when the storm comes, and you're still standing, stronger than ever. Number 10, you were hidden because what you carry is dangerous to the unprepared. They kept you hidden, but it wasn't because you weren't ready. It was because the power inside you was too much for them to handle, too real, too raw, too dangerous. If you had been exposed too soon, their fragile egos would have fed off the fear and confusion you might have stirred. Their insecurities would have tried to tame your fire, and in the process, your spirit would have been drained before it even had the chance to fully ignite. The truth is, sometimes being unseen is the greatest form of protection. Not just for you, but for those around you who aren't ready to witness or handle the kind of energy you bring. What you carry isn't just talent or ambition, it's transformation. And transformation shakes foundations. It disrupts comfort zones. It demands accountability. Not everyone can steward that kind of power without losing themselves or trying to bend you into something less threatening. You were kept in the shadows not as a punishment, but as a divine strategy. The timing of your unveiling matters. It's not just about when you're ready, but when the environment is ready. Because if you had shown up too soon, you might have been met with resistance, misunderstanding, or worse, sabotage. The world wasn't prepared for the full force of what you're meant to do, so the universe gave you the space to grow quietly, to gather strength, and to prepare for the impact you're about to make. Now, as the timing aligns, your emergence won't just be an arrival, it'll be a reckoning. For them, for the status quo, for anything that ever tried to hold you back. You weren't hidden because you weren't enough. You were hidden because what you carry is too powerful to be handled recklessly. And that power? It's about to change everything. Number 11. They confused delay with denial, but you were just building without applause. They watched you wait and assumed you were stuck. They mistook your quiet grind for giving up. To them, success had to be loud, immediate, and flaunted for all to see. So when you didn't burst onto the scene with fanfare, they whispered that you'd been denied, that your chance had passed. But the truth was far from their shallow assumptions. You weren't stalled. You were building in silence. While they chased applause, you cultivated substance. Their focus was on optics, the flashy moments, the instant validation, the surface-level wins. But you understood something deeper. Blessings rooted in authenticity don't need spotlights or cheers. They grow in the quiet spaces where no one's watching, in the moments when you choose integrity over image. You were constructing your foundation brick by brick, layer by layer, without the noise of hype. The world's impatient for instant gratification, but you knew that true growth demands patience. You weren't just building a momentary stage to perform on, you were creating a lasting legacy. That kind of work doesn't always look impressive from the outside, especially to people who value speed over depth. Because you focused on essence instead of appearance, your blessings are more powerful, more sustainable. They aren't dependent on external validation or fleeting trends. They're anchored in truth, resilience, and purpose. The delay they mocked wasn't a dead end. It was your strategic pause, a sacred space where your vision could mature without compromise. So when your blessings finally arrive, they won't just be impressive. They'll be undeniable. Not because you shouted the loudest, but because you built the realist. And that kind of success doesn't need an audience to be valid. It needs authenticity to last. Number 12. Your scarcity season wasn't lack. It was proof you could be trusted with more. When everything around you seemed scarce, opportunities, support, even hope, it looked like you were lacking. People saw the empty spaces and assumed you were falling behind or losing your grip. But scarcity isn't about what you don't have. It's about who you become in the absence of plenty. And what you became during that season is exactly why abundance is now racing toward you. You didn't break when things got tight. You didn't crumble under pressure or give up when the well ran dry. Instead, you learned how to stretch what little you had, to innovate with limited tools, to adapt to shifting conditions, and to endure longer than anyone expected. Scarcity forced you to become resourceful, to sharpen your instincts, and to prove that your strength wasn't dependent on easy circumstances. That season was a test, not just of your patience or grit, but of your character. Abundance doesn't just land on anyone. It seeks those who respect its value and understand its responsibility. It looks for the ones who won't waste it, who won't let comfort dull their edge, and who have already proven they can survive without it. Your scarcity season showed that you can handle the hard stuff. It revealed your capacity to build without crutches and to thrive without guarantees. Now abundance sees you as trustworthy. It knows that when it arrives, you'll manage it wisely, grow it sustainably, and share it generously. So what looked like lack was actually preparation. It was the proving ground where you earned the right to receive more. The scarcity wasn't a punishment. It was proof that you're ready for everything you prayed for, because you've already survived the hardest part. And now the universe is making sure you get exactly what you deserve. Number 13, they wanted your brilliance without your burden. They saw your brilliance and wanted to bask in its glow without understanding what it took to get there. They craved the applause, the admiration, the perks that come with standing in the spotlight. But when it came to the grind, The long nights, the doubts, the sacrifices, they turned away. They envied the crown you wear, but had no idea about the weight it carries. They wanted the throne without the battle scars. It's easy to envy someone's success when you only see the finish line. They don't see the relentless pressure that forged it. They don't see the moments you wanted to quit, but didn't. They don't understand that every achievement you celebrate is the result of surviving what others can't bear. The crown isn't just a symbol of victory, it's proof you endured the pressure, the heat, and the loneliness that came before. People want to claim your wins as if they were effortless gifts handed to you. But true brilliance doesn't come from shortcuts or luck. It comes from carrying burdens others wouldn't touch. Resilience under fire, persistence in the face of failure, and a willingness to stand alone when necessary. The weight of your journey shaped you, not just your talent or luck. So when they ask for your crown but reject your burden, they reveal they don't truly understand what it means to lead, to conquer, to rise. The crown only fits the one who has been tested, broken, and rebuilt stronger. It only belongs to the person who embraces the full spectrum of the journey, the brilliance and the burden together. Their envy is a reflection of their fear. They want your light, but aren't willing to face the darkness that fuels it. And that's why the crown remains on your head. It's yours because you earned it. Not despite the pressure, but because of it. Number 14, their loss isn't your victory, but it is your liberation. Their loss isn't your victory. Let's get that straight. What they go through as their world unravels doesn't need your celebration or approval. It's tempting to feel satisfaction when those who doubted, undermined, or tried to hold you back face consequences. But real growth, real elevation, isn't about revenge or rubbing someone else's failure in their face. It's about liberation. It's about finally stepping into your own power without looking back, without bitterness, without the weight of past hurts holding you down. Your rise isn't a response to their fall, it's a reflection of your own journey, your commitment to becoming who you were meant to be regardless of their actions. When you focus on someone else's collapse as your success, you tie your identity to their pain. That's a temporary high, a fleeting moment of satisfaction that doesn't build lasting joy or peace. Liberation happens when you recognize that your blessings are yours, unique, personal, and predestined by something bigger than the drama surrounding you. What you've been waiting for, working toward, and enduring isn't contingent on their approval or downfall. Your elevation was never about proving them wrong or getting even. It was always about fulfilling your purpose, stepping into your calling, and becoming whole. The truth is, when they fall, it's simply the natural order of things catching up with what's out of balance, not a scoreboard for you to keep. Your blessings are personal. They're not public competitions or popularity contests. They are precise, tailored to your unique path and growth. They're predestined, not because you're entitled, but because you've been prepared and shaped for something specific that only you can do. And now, as all the pieces align, those blessings become undeniable. You can't deny your own truth, your own progress, or the transformation that's taken place within you. Liberation feels different from victory. It's lighter, it's freer. It's not fueled by anger or resentment, but by clarity and peace. You're not dragged down by the past anymore. You're stepping forward with intention, confidence, and a deep knowing that your rise is authentic. You don't need their fall to shine because your light has always been inside you, waiting patiently for the moment you would claim it. So don't waste energy celebrating their loss. Instead, celebrate your freedom. Celebrate the growth that was forged in silence, the resilience that was born from struggle, and the blessings that are now unmistakably yours. Your liberation is your triumph, and that is a power no one can take away. You've made it through storms they didn't think you'd survive. You endured moments that would have broken most people. You stayed faithful when you felt forgotten, focused when you felt unseen, and grounded when everything around you was shaking. And now you're standing at the edge of a season that's not just better, it's destined. This isn't about proving anyone wrong anymore. It's not about revenge or validation or getting the applause you were denied. This is about alignment. This is about stepping into what's always had your name on it, even when others tried to cross it out. What's coming to you now isn't compensation, it's confirmation. Confirmation that the pain had a purpose, that the delay was divine, that the isolation was intentional. You weren't being punished, you were being positioned. The people who once dismissed you will have no choice but to witness your elevation. Not because you want them to hurt, but because your rise is simply too visible to ignore. And while they're trying to figure out how you made it without their help, you'll be busy walking through doors they never even saw opening. But here's the deeper truth. Your victory was never about them. Your success isn't built on spite, it's built on sacred ground. You don't need their downfall to feel tall. You were already standing on something stronger than approval. Purpose. And purpose doesn't compete, it doesn't chase clout, it doesn't fold under pressure. It simply becomes, with or without permission. So let them talk, let them watch, let them wonder. Because while they were plotting your end, heaven was plotting your beginning. And now, as everything they tried to use against you falls apart, your blessings are stepping in. Personal, precise, undeniable. This is your moment. Not because the world is finally watching, but because you're finally ready. Stay grounded, stay focused, stay faithful. What's coming can't be stolen, delayed, or diminished. It's yours, and it's here. If this message spoke to you, if it resonated on a deeper level and gave you that aha moment, then don't keep it to yourself. Hit that subscribe button and become part of this journey with us, because there's so much more ahead that will challenge, inspire, and uplift you. When you subscribe, you're not just supporting this channel, you're joining a community of people committed to growth, authenticity, and real transformation. If you found value in what you just heard, please take a moment to like this video. It's a simple action that helps us reach more people who need this message as much as you do. Every like tells the algorithm that this content matters, and it helps us keep creating powerful, honest conversations that cut through the noise. We want to hear from you too. Leave a comment below and share your story, your thoughts, or even the challenges you're facing right now. Your voice matters. And by sharing, you might just be the encouragement someone else needs to keep going. Let's create a space where vulnerability is strength and where we can lift each other up. And if this video moved you in any way, whether it sparked hope, gave clarity, or challenged the way you see things, please share it with your friends, family, or anyone who could benefit from this message. Sharing isn't just about spreading the word, it's about planting seeds that can grow into something bigger than any one of us alone. So don't hesitate, subscribe, like, comment, and share. Let's build something real together. Your journey to transformation starts here, and I'm honored to walk alongside you. Thank you for being here, thank you for your trust, and thank you for allowing these truths to shape your path. The best is yet to come.